I've pulled out all of my palettes, every single palette I own. So that means any eyeshadow that is more than a single. And it's in this pile now. I have a total of 86 palettes, and I am ready to get started kind of organizing them in a slightly different way. Maybe a way that you haven't thought of doing before and I haven't really seen anyone else do before. So let's jump right on in here. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Melissa, and as I mentioned in my last video, I was thinking I would reorganize some of my palettes into like categories. I feel like I don't always know what I have. I have a general idea of what I have. You know, I have 86 palettes. Yeah, that's a lot. And some of them I really don't use anymore. They're what I would consider archive palettes, ones that I keep because there is some like historical reference that I might want to make there, and you know, think Urban Decay, the original Naked palette, like that's one that I would put into that category. So, but then I also have like some colorful palettes, and I have some cool tone palettes, and like, do I really know how many cool tone palettes I have or how many warm palettes I have? So the idea is I'm going to open them up, look at them, and decide, you know, which kind of category they belong in. So here are the categories I have. I have archive, I have cool tone, I have neutral with a pop of color, warm, colorful palettes that have a lot of color, and ones that are like full face palettes. I think that should cover all of them. We'll see. I might end up going, no, I need category. So that's where I'm starting off, and I think what I'll do is I do have everything on the floor behind me. Yeah, you can see everything back there. I think I'm going to move to the floor and record the sorting process. I feel a little bit like, you know, the sorting hat with Harry Potter. And then at the end I'm going to give you like a breakdown, like almost like a flat lay of each grouping. I think this is an interesting idea because I don't think many people, they usually separate their palettes by brand, or more often than not I see it by brand, but not like by color. Before I get too far along, let me show you what I have on my face. So I am wearing mostly products from my Project Pan, and on my eyes I am wearing the Flutterby today. And I decided I really wanted to play with this like pressed glitter. Oh my god, I have glitter everywhere. And I even like used my tape method to like pull some of it off from under my eyes. It's everywhere. Honestly, I will probably never wear it again because it's just everywhere. Like, how do you go out like a real person and not like have people think like, didn't you see she has glitter everywhere? So everything else is from my Project Pan, but I did pull out this Marc Jacobs lipstick in a Vinyl Dream, and I love this. It's like a vampy, like purple color. I just felt like it went with the Flutterby. So that's what I have on my lips. Let's go to the floor and see what we can sort out down there. So I pulled out a few right off the bat to start off with, and then we'll dig into all this stuff down here. And this first batch is going to be like full face palettes. This one, which is the Rainforest After Dark, the Aqua Lilies by Tarte. Then I have this one from Bare Minerals, which was a holiday palette. So it has eyes and cheeks. I have this It Girl palette, which is eyes and cheeks. Oh, there's also Laura Mercier palette around here that's got eyes and cheeks. This one has eyes and cheeks. Then let's move on to some like what I would consider like archive ones that are kind of old. They don't make them anymore, but I want to keep them for reference or because they're ones I really loved. This one is from Japanesque, the Pixelated Color Palette. This one from Sonia Kashuk, the Eye on Neutral Palette. You know, that brand isn't making eyeshadows or makeup anymore. I think they're just down to brushes. This Stila palette in the light. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. This one from Too Faced. I think they're still making it. This is like half warm, half cool. Yeah, this is the warm side. This is the cool side. I think I'm going to put this in archive. I almost never reach for this, but I hold on to it for reference. It Cosmetics Naturally Pretty. I think this is going to go into archive as well, although I'll probably still use it. A couple of these I'll still use because I love them. And then the original Naked palette. I'm going to put that in archive as well. And the rest I'm just going to do as they come up. So let's see. Here is the Narcissist palette that is the that special formula. What's that called? The Dual Intensity Eyeshadow formula, which I really like, and I think I'm going to put this in neutral with a pop of color because these two are kind of color. Most of the shades are neutral. This is going to get hard to do, so we'll see how I make out. The Master palette by Mario is totally a warm palette, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in my warm bin. Here we are with the Jackie Aina palette from ABH. And this is definitely what I would consider a colorful palette. The Lorac Pro 3 is just a good neutral palette. This is the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. I feel like this whole top row is warm. Couple neutrals, some pops of color. So for now, I think I'm going to put it in with a pop of color. Oh, here's another archival one. This is the Urban Decay Smoked palette. This is definitely one for the archives. So fun to look at that and remember. And the Urban Decay Smoked palette, they're not making this anymore, so I think I'm going to also archive this, but I consider this a cool tone palette. I have a lot that's already going into archives. That scares me. Alright, this is from Bobbi Brown. It is the Ultraviolet eyeshadow palette. This is definitely like a colorful palette. This is the, love this, Matte Metal palette from Kat Von D, and this is definitely a colorful palette. There's a lot of color in this. This is the Lorac, I think it's the Nude Essentials palette. I'm going to put that in the neutral bucket. Milani Soft and Sultry. I'm going to put this in the neutral bucket. I think originally when they launched this, people were calling this a cool tone palette, but I don't really feel like it is. Kevyn Aucoin, Jewel Pop. Oh, here's another face one. Bobbi Brown Luxe Nudes. I know they don't make this anymore, but I love this. So I'm putting this in with neutrals. Sultry palette. I'm going to put this in cool tones. Subculture I'm going to archive. Such a great color story. So sad that they didn't execute it well. Alright, Modern Renaissance. I think this is a warm tone palette. That's where it's going, babe. Alright, this is an Urban Decay Vice palette. And I'm putting that in the colorful bin. She is colorful. ColourPop Stone Cold Fox is definitely a cool tone palette. This is the Profusion Bear palette. This is a warm tone palette. Just open it up real quick. The original Lorac Pro palette, I'm going to put that into neutral. The Lorac, I think this is number 4. I also think that's kind of neutral. I honestly haven't used this enough to really know for sure. Is it neutral or warm? But for now it's going into the neutral bin. This is the KKW Smoky Volume 1 palette. And this is a neutral. Rimmel Magnifies the Smoke Edition. That's, I'm going to put in the cool palette. The Magnifies, I think this says keep calm and wear gold, but this is just a really good neutral palette. Alright, here's another face palette. It's called the Hot Nights palette from NARS. Parteous Pro palette. This is an awesome palette. I'm going to put this with neutral with a pop of color because these are kind of colorful. I don't know. It's very subjective. Here's another Tarte palette. The Golden Days Sultry Nights limited edition palette. I'm going to put neutral with a pop of color because of that. The Too Faced Natural Eyes. It's just going to be like a good neutral palette. The Naked Basics 2 palette. This one is definitely cool tone. This was a holiday palette from Fenty, the Galaxy palette. Everything is shimmery and sparkly. I'm putting this in the colorful bin. The ColourPop Fame palette, I'm going to put that in the neutral bin. So this is the Laura Mercier, is there a name on here? No, it was a holiday palette. It came out about the same time as the Iraq, the original Iraq. And I'm going to put that in neutral. This is the Bare Minerals Bounce and Blur Shadows in the color selection Dawn, and I think that's neutral as well. This is from Paula's Choice. It's the Nude Mattes palette. Really a beautiful, stunning palette. It doesn't look like much, but when you start using it, it is. But she's not making makeup anymore. I'm going to put this in the archives. The Tartelette palette, and it has some warm, some cool. So I'm just going to put it in neutral. The Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette, definitely neutrals with some pops of color. Natasha Denona Glam palette is mostly cool. There are some warm tone colors in here. The Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, again, this I think is going to go into archives. I'm not really sure where this brand is going anymore. The Aether Beauty Rose Quartz palette, I'm going to put this in my cool tone bin. It's a beautiful palette. Naked 3, definitely cool tone. I think they are still making this, so I'm going to put this in my cool tone bin. Here we are with the Viseart cool matte palette. Obviously I'm going to put that in with the cools. Love that. And this is the Paris Nudes. I'm going to put that in like the neutral bin. Alright, Marc Jacobs. This is the Editorial, and I'm going to put this in neutral with a pop of color. This one is the Frivolux palette, again neutral with a pop of color. This is Dose of Colors Pretty Cool. It's a very cool tone browns and just makes this nice smoky eye cool tone palette. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a palette. That's a full face palette. This is the original Rainforest of the Sea eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to put that in the neutral bin. This is Marc Jacobs Stiletto palette. I'm putting that in cool tones because I feel like that's mostly cool tones. And this is the Marc Jacobs Lolita palette, and that's going to go in the neutral bin. Alright, Natasha Denona. This is the Mini Lila palette, and I think this is pretty colorful. So I'm putting that in my colorful bin. The Mini Glam palette, and I feel like this is kind of warm, so I'm putting it in my warm pile. This is from Sleek, the Oh So Special palette. There's some warm, there's some cool. I'm going to put it in like neutral. ColourPop, that's Taupe. This is a beautiful cool tone palette. This is the e.l.f. Rose Gold palette. I'm going to put that in cool tone. This is Buxom Dolly on the Wild Side. I think I'm going to put this in the neutral with a pop of color. Alright, let's get after this Mothership. This is the Pat McGrath Mothership 1 Subliminal palette, and this is definitely neutral with a pop of color. Flutterby, cool tone. Making Mauves, cool tone. Fenty Beauty number 6, which is like a smoky eye. I'm going to put that in cool tone. And then the Fenty number 2. These are cool tones as well. Alright, this one that I've talked a lot about lately from my declutter. Obviously this is a colorful palette. The Lorac Pro 2. I'm going to do neutral with a pop of color there. My new Dior palette, Tutu palette. I'm going to say this is just cool tone. I think this says and God Created Woman, something like that. This reads very warm tone on the eyes. So that's going in my warm palette. Here's the Natasha Denona Mini like Star palette. Again, I feel like it's kind of warm. Just had this little pop of color, but I'm putting it in the warm category. This very old Bare Minerals, and I'm just going to put that in the neutral bin. Probably going to declutter that at some point this year. This is the Navy and Nudes palette from Bobbi Brown, and this is pretty cool tone. But it does have a little pop of color. I'll do neutral with a pop of color here. So I have this little palette from TIGI. I think this is a CVS brand. It's really pretty, and it's a good neutral. Maybe even cool tone. I think I'm going to put it in the cool tone bin. I have a bunch of these little ones from Smashbox. This is Snap Queen. It's a good neutral. These are all pretty neutral. This one is Nudie Pick and Night Shoot. These are all going in the neutral bin. This is the Fizzy Art. I can't read that. I don't have my glasses down here. I'm going to put this in the neutral palette. And this little one from Kevin Aquan that I've got a long time in a subscription box. And I'm putting this as neutral with a pop of color. I still really love this little one. I need to use this because every time I open it up, I'm like, I love that. So this little one from Wet n Wild, I think that says Silent Treatment. This is a good neutral palette. Here are all the warm tone palettes. Next to that is the ones that I would call full face. They have eyeshadow and cheek colors in them. This is my collection of colorful palettes. They are pretty colorful, more than I thought I had. This is what I'm calling my archive pile. Palettes that are like have been discontinued, or the companies have gone out of business. They are no longer making makeup. You know, ones that I almost never reach for anymore. There are some that I would like to reach for, and I might. I just might break the rules and do that. These are all my cool tone palettes. I would say I added quite a few of these just at the end of last year. It's like cool tone palettes became a thing again, and companies were cranking them out. This is by far the largest section of my collection, which is the neutral palettes. Are the neutral palettes with a pop of color. I did flat lays for each category. The most obvious observations. I don't have that many warm palettes because I don't really care for them on me. So that's one thing I noticed quite a bit, that I didn't have that many warm tone palettes. I'm surprised I didn't have more colorful palettes, although when I laid them all, down side by side, you can see there's a lot of overlap. It's just like you think you're picking up, oh, this is such a unique palette, and some are and some really aren't. So I think that's pretty funny. Certainly some of the palettes I had in my full face selection are ones that I probably should archive, like the Aqua Lilies and that old Tarte palette, Rainforest in the Dark palette. A bunch of those could probably be archived. Some of them are a little bit newer. But again, even some of those look remarkably similar, like the Charlotte Tilbury and the NARS palette look nearly identical in color story. So interesting. The archive section is about what I expected. I actually was a little surprised at how many I put in that bin, but honestly, it makes sense to me to do that. There are some that are still being manufactured, like I believe the Chocolate Bar palette is still being manufactured, but I don't really find myself reaching for that palette very much, so I'm archiving it because I think it might be something I want to refer to in the future. By far the biggest collection was the neutrals. I was really surprised at how many neutral palettes I had. I definitely see some that I'm going to declutter, and that might be the next step is, really reviewing these photos and this footage and really deciding which ones I'm going to declutter. The cool tone palettes, they're all wonderful. I love them. I will not get rid of any of those. There are probably some in the neutral bin that I could archive, and maybe I'll do that. There's some I could declutter, but there's some core ones that I really like. And the neutrals with a pop of color, I like that little collection. That's pretty awesome. So what's the next step in this process? For my project pan, where I'm trying to touch as many palettes as I can this year, do I want to include one from each section until I've gone through them? That's pretty bold, probably too ambitious. There are some that I think I can absolutely declutter pretty quickly, and I think probably that's my next step. I'm rambling a little bit here because I'm thinking out loud. For me, this was really great to go through this, see what I have there, and it'll help me make buying purchases in the future. It also, every time I pull out my eyeshadow palette collection, it is like a walk down memory lane. Like, I remember when I bought this, how I was feeling about it, how excited I was about it. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. This also will definitely help me make decisions about what's going to go in my project pan next, and ones, you know, things that I'm like, I think I can declutter this. I'll probably hit those first. Look at them, play with them, touch them. Maybe I'll put quite a few in there because I'm pretty sure I'll be decluttering them, and just kind of go through them pretty quickly. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.